Welcome back to the Whiskey Wine Down, where we have live, candid conversations about real estate and just overall anything related to real estate and essentially a lifestyle. So today we have with us Ruben Salazar, one of the home inspectors in Texas, a great home inspector. So thank you for joining me, Ruben.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Ruben does some great work. So my name is McShan, realtor with eXp Realty, and today I just want to highlight some things and aspects to consider as far as home inspections and more so home maintenance. Because I feel like it's a lot of things that homeowners go into home ownership, and we sometimes just think of the home as like this structure that's not man-made, like as if it's like, no, it lives with you. You would have to adjust. You would have to maintenance will be a thing, even on new homes. So that's something that we'll be talking about. So with that in mind, before we get started, what kind of inspired you to get into home inspecting, and what was kind of your pathway to being a home inspector?
So originally, when I first bought my first house, I passed the inspection. Well, not really. I had my dad look over the house, and having a family member, especially like my dad, I look up to him, and he knows a lot about the houses. And I wanted a third, somebody who's not biased to the house like I would be. So my dad looked over the house, and he did call out a few things, but once we moved in, I found a lot more, and that kind of threw me in there about thinking about being a home inspector. I could do this. I could find this stuff. I grew up with my dad being a contractor, so I knew about the roof. I knew how to get in the attic, electrical. I knew about everything. So it wasn't too hard for me to transition into the home inspection
already
side.
had the general home knowledge.
Yeah, I was comfortable.
I was right. There's like, this is not how you do this. This is
yeah. I mean, personally, it's I'm comfortable with it, and I love it. I always want to learn more stuff about it, and it's just to me the flow transitioning to that. It was easy and seamless, and I just don't want somebody to get into a house and do the same thing what I did. Having my dad.
There's never like a positive experience. Like, oh, now we got this house, we got to fix this.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like any home inspection. It's really, you need to know what you're getting into. Right. It's not like we just need to buy the house the way it is, and you just need to have the information right in front of you, just like anything like buying a car. You need to know.
You want the Carfax.
Yeah, you want the Carfax. You want to know if you need to buy tires soon. You can't go in there blind.
Right. And that's definitely an important piece, especially just considering, like, even we were in markets where I've had folks that say like submit an offer without an option period, or like but that doesn't always mean, and this is where I'll tell folks, that doesn't mean you don't have to get an inspection. This is more so like you sacrifice your leverage to negotiate repairs. Right. So pretty much you kind of say, hey, I'm gonna buy the house, and at worst, if you don't, you could lose your earnest money. Right. But depending on how much earnest money you have, it's kind of like, oh, would you rather lose $2,000 or buy a house that has all these issues? Right. So that's kind of the leverage that you can leverage with sellers. Like, we're not gonna nickel and dime. Like, we're only gonna terminate if it's something major. But then you have this information that's available, even if it's like things that could be small and minor, and you don't necessarily have to have them done before closing. But you should know, we should probably reseal the. It can be some stuff like resealing a window.
To-do list.
You have your to-do list.
Yeah.
So being able to handle things like that before, like, oh, now the window's leaking, now we got mold, now we got rot, now we got, like, it's all these things that could have been possibly resolved by recalking or resealing.
Yeah. I mean, simple repairs sometimes, could stop bigger repairs.
Right. Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest things that I like to try to share with homeowners, especially if my first time buyers. I'm like, your home is a thing. Everything isn't going to be perfect. But you do have to be prepared to, maintain your home. And ideally, when you do that over time, it makes your home last longer, and you don't have as many of those more expensive repairs, or you're able to just time out things to where they're not failing on you. And it's like, wow, every single day something's going wrong.
Yeah. I mean, a house isn't maintenance free. It's a living thing. It breathes. There's electricity going through it. There's always something, in the weather, So we all got to be mindful that it's not going to be perfect the first time, but we always got to maintain it and keep it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So what would you say as you kind of walk us? Well, I would say, can you just walk us through the overall home inspection process when it comes to, you know, what do you focus on and what are maybe some things of highest concern versus, you know?
So my process is fast and simple. I start at the exterior, then I'll do the roof, then I go inside, I do the attic, then the crawl space last. So exterior, I mean, there's multiple things to look at: windows, walls, brick, if it's cracking. So I've seen, you know, electrical issues, especially outside the house. It's more of an issue because everything gets weather, you know, everything starts getting brittle, everything starts getting wet. So that's my main focus outside, stopping the weather from going deteriorating things or breaking things down inside the house. So same thing with the roof, you know, I gotta make sure everything is up to par. If there's any damage or future potential for damage, you know, the condition of the roof, is a delamination. It has already
big
started.
one, because roofs are very expensive to replace.
Yep.
And if you're listening to this, this is your message. If you are a homeowner, you're about to make sure that wind and hail deductible is low, especially if you're in Texas, because that's probably one of our, at least I've seen it, it's like one of the like most frequent actual causes of damage to the home. But oftentimes insurance policies is separate. It's a separate deductible. So your wind and hail deductible might be like $10,000, and we have multiple hailstorms. So like otherwise, and the insurance company be like, yeah, we'll cover it, but you got to pay a $10,000 deductible.
Yeah.
So when you have that, I definitely recommend everybody like it's worth it in Texas.
Yeah. So we take care of that from the outside. Then inside, we start looking at the foundation also. We do look at the foundation the outside, but the inside, it tells you more of a detail. Doors out of square, not closing, latching right. Same thing with the windows, out of square, not closing right, or the latching. Even walking around the foundation, you could tell if there's just some kind of issue with sloping.
Gotcha.
Then there's electrical we got to look at, see what's good, what's bad, what needs to be updated, or, you know, like GFCIs and AFCIs, you know, make sure if you do have GFCIs, you know, let you know you do have it or you don't have it.
And for the people that may not be familiar, tell us a little bit more about.
So you got your GFCI. GFCI
in candid terms, we got
is ground fault circuit interrupter.
Gotcha.
So those are the resettable plugs next to the sinks in the kitchen or exterior. That's there to protect you from electrical shock.
So anywhere that water is likely to pop off.
Yeah. So you want that to protect you. Then you have your AFCI. That's a newer requirement in some areas, recommended for me in Trek. AFCI is arc fault circuit interrupter. So you can either buy that as a plug or as a breaker. I do recommend the breaker because it covers more plugs.
What does that do?
So it protects you from arcing in the line. So if there's a drywall screw that got pierced, or not a good connection on the splice in the attic, or, you know, in the walls or whatnot.
Like random kind of like connection.
Yeah, so that little sparks, you know, a funny story is I had a friend of mine's parents, they asked me to go to their house, and they had an issue with the brand new house with the electrical in their kitchen. Well, they had a electric, what was those to cut meat? You know what I'm talking about?
Like meat trimmer.
Yeah, meat trimmer. So it had a little motor in it. Well, that has little sparks with the motor. So that it was popping. It kept tripping. So you know, and it took some little investigating what was going on, but it was that. It was tripping, and
actually the system was working.
It was working.
It was doing
what
it was
working like it's doing. Yeah, and it just you know, simple stuff like that. You know, recommendations that's there to protect you, just like the smoke detectors are there to protect you.
Right.
Interior too, you know, draw walls, see if there's cracking or whatnot, walls out of plumb. Then we got the kitchen with the appliances, you know, dishwasher, garbage disposal, stove, microwave, your range hood. Then there's other stuff too, besides like sprinkler system, septic and whatnot, and termites. But yeah, that typically, depending on the house, it could take 2 to 3 hours doing with the report, and the size of the house, you know.
Gotcha.
Newer house, it might take be a little bit quicker. Older houses take a little bit longer.
Gotcha. When you mentioned two things, one, newer homes Also, welcome Grover. We're gonna let Grover come into the frame. So Grover is now part of the Whiskey Wine Down. Grover, the Land Rover. With that in mind, as far as foundation, because foundation comes up often,
Yes.
and even with me as a real estate agent, even I'm sure with you as an inspector, we also foundation can kind of go into foundation specialists and so forth too. But foundation are always a thing that I feel like clients hear and they're like, oh my gosh, it has foundation issues, which is absolutely true. Like you can get a home with like a terrible foundation and
there's
you got a lot of problems, but there's also like homes are on ground and the earth moves.
Right. So foundation itself, man, to me, it's every house, just about every house. There's some kind of movement, some kind of adjusting that the ground is doing to the house. I have to remind everybody that the house is not going to fall down unless it's really major issues. Any cracks bigger than a quarter of an inch, then you do have issues. But for me, pier and beam, slab, everything shifts, everything settles. The only house I don't see shifting or settling are brand new houses, but they're guaranteed.
What houses?
Brand new houses, but they're guaranteed to shift and settle
in the future. Time. Right. So over time, after you get past that 10-year maybe mark.
Yeah, you'll see some type of movement. It might not be super noticeable, but you'll see the door doesn't latch correctly or a little cracking on the brick wall on the exterior, and you'll start noticing little things like that. But it's not the end of the world. It's settling,
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's to me it's normal.
Gotcha. So that's just something that's important to understand. What would you say as far as maybe some indicators of like this may be some kind of normal expected for age versus like run for the hills? Like if you see this when it comes to foundation, run for the hills. So
when I would say run for the hills is when it's remodeled or new house and it's already cracking. That's telling me that it's still shifting, it's still moving around. Now if it's been remodeled, it's been about a year, you don't see any cracking, but then you see cracking 2 years down the road. It's not too much concerning. Depends, like I said, also the size of the crack. I mean, if you see anything drastically major or long or even constantly moving, then yeah, it's something run for the hills kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's my thing is it's real noticeable. Now walking around, you can also tell too if there's a major movement. I think foundation contractors try to they use the inch rule. If it drops an inch, they recommend some type of adjustment. Yeah, some type of an adjustment. But yeah, and those kind of things, it's kind of hard to tell walking around. You got to actually measure it just to make sure,
Gotcha. Awesome. And with that in mind, we were talking about new construction. What are some of your thoughts, or maybe what are some of the things that you've seen in new construction homes as far as like maybe inspector issues to highlight? Because oftentimes, and I even tell all of my clients, like even with new construction, get a home inspection. Both before you close and even afterwards. Like in Texas, if home builders offer a 1-year warranty, I'm pretty sure it's probably required by the state or something like that's why everybody does it. It's not because they just really want to offer a 1-year warranty. It's required. But during that 1 year, before your 1 year is up, it can also be helpful to get your home inspected, so that way you can have any issues that do pop up addressed by the builder at that 1 year mark. But some people think, oh, it's a new home, I don't need a home inspection because it's a brand new home.
I've seen issues.
I was gonna say, so what are some of the most common issues? So like most egregious? I don't know.
Well, I mean, common ones, I can't really tell you. I've seen like the last day for me to inspect, and they're about to sign paperwork that day. I've seen houses where the electrical, half of the house, the electrical isn't working. I've seen where half the house, well, somewhat half the house, the hot water and cold water were switched. So you're having the toilet fill up with hot water and the sink's running hot water was supposed to be cold. Stuff like that.
I just thought about it because I have a bidet.
I see. Oh yeah. Yeah, that'd be a wake-up call right there.
That'd be something right there.
Yeah. I seen, well, I mean, nothing major like dryer vents not installed, but when you have the dryer in the middle of the house, you want that dryer vent already installed, because then you're tearing up walls just to put that dryer vent in. roofs,
and it's a brand new home.
Yeah.
So like, you know, on the consumer side, it's like you just bought a brand new house.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be coming in making some of these adjustments and repairs
last minute. Yeah.
Right,
And
right.
sometimes it might take them a day to do it, or 2 days, or the contractor's not available. You know, so some of the stuff is it's mistakes. You know, we all make mistakes, but sometimes they're rushed, you know, and you want somebody to inspect it that's not rushed and take their time and make sure everything's done right. I'm not sure. I mean, they have their own inspectors too. I'm not sure sometimes if they're outside contractors or with themselves, and they might be rushed too. So, you know, you just want that honest opinion, taking their time and doing what they need to do to make sure everything's done right. So it could be move-in ready. You know, you want to move in. I've seen dishwasher not installed. You want to move in to use your dishwasher to make sure you can use the dryer. You know, you could flush the toilet and not, you know, get it scald. And, you know, you want to be moving in, signing paperwork ready, because then you lose that advantage of you haven't signed the paperwork yet. You know?
Right. And it's like, yeah, we gonna get it fixed now. Cause I can tell you one thing, that even if you're under warranty, the builder gonna move a lot faster. If it's before closing, than they will after closing. After closing, you're in like a different category. You're like, okay, we have a maintenance line, we got to whatever. It's a process. Submit your warranty claim on the website. It's gonna start a timer, XYZ versus this is before closing, head to a roll. And we can make some things happen real quick.
They'll make that phone call, you know. And I tell, usually the general contractor's there. Well, you know, the head guy, he's usually there, so I let him know so he can start making that phone call and get that, you know, house fixed. So you can move in, get everything, you know, situated. I mean, your side, you want to make sure everything's done right.
Right.
You don't
that's one of the biggest things. Even if we're like down to the wire on closing, because oftentimes builders will have documents and closing documents that'll be like literally asking you, is everything complete? Like, have you done a final walkthrough and acceptance? And then oftentimes folks, you know, supers or whoever may be like, hey, we're about to have it done. XYZ, it'll be done before tomorrow or whatever. And because you're closing, you know, say in the evening time on this day. And they're like, should I sign? I was like, is it true? And it was like, no, it's not done. So I was like, well, don't sign it, because then they're gonna be like, you signed this saying this.
That's why you do the walkthrough.
That's why you do the walkthrough
to make sure everything's done right.
And that's a common thing that I have seen and I've had to advise clients on, as far as like, you know, new construction final walkthrough, to where like folks may try to pressure you to be like, hey, yeah, this is the form. Just need you to sign it, even though. And but well, this form is saying I'm accepting this house as is, and that everything is done. Like, no, we're literally missing a refrigerator that y'all said y'all was gonna deliver.
Yeah,
here's the whole thing afterwards. And now you calling me, and I'm like, God, you signed the paperwork that literally just said that you. I mean,
I'm pretty sure. I mean, you're not the first. I hear horror stories about that. I hear horror stories that they're trying to get things fixed, but they already signed the paperwork. You know, now they're dragging their feet. You know, you lose the advantage of being the one to sign the paperwork. You know,
right. So that's some of the astute advice in that regard. Of like, you know, home inspections are definitely valuable. Your final walkthroughs are definitely, you know, very valuable as well. And don't sign it if it's not true.
yeah, for sure. Protect yourself, and, you know, protect your time, protect your money, because you're paying for a complete house. Right. A functioning house to get, you know, move in and live your life.
Right. Absolutely. So with that in mind, we want to just transition to some other aspects. I got a few questions here, but I do want to be mindful of our time. And I also know we want to keep the live Whiskey Wine Down series pretty short. But in some regards, we have a lot going on in regards to technology, including like smart home aspects and electrical, even like EV charging and stuff like that at the house. What are some like common things that you're seeing as far as like just a technology influence on homes, and also how that might affect kind of like, you know, home inspector?
So for the house itself, technology. So there's a lot more houses with solar. You got the solar panels. I haven't really seen too many with the separate power pack. So you can get. I don't personally know it because I can't get into the system itself. You could get a third-party solar contractor to evaluate the house on a new house, even on an old house. Even on the old house, I think you might look at the bills to see how much it's producing, or what how much you're saving.
So that's kind of a recommendation, where if you're gonna get a home with solar panels, you need to get the solar panels.
See what's So I could visually check if everything's together crack, see if it's damaged, loose or whatnot. But I can't run
Just
the
like
numbers.
power outage.
I can't
and how
run the
much is it
numbers.
putting
Yeah.
out
So
per sale and all this.
yeah,
type of
you
stuff.
need somebody who could hook up to it and give you the numbers.
That's good to know.
Yeah. So that's one aspect of it. So now smart homes itself, I can inspect smart homes, but it's really more of a personal thing, like the Alexa stuff. If you don't have it hooked up, I can't really check it, because if it's not hooked up to the internet, then there's really no point of doing anything like that. Thermostats, I've seen smart home thermostats, but it's just a regular thermostat for me. Now there's cameras too, but usually newer homes, nobody installs the cameras unless you get a third party to install them itself. So future wise, I mean, I think I can, but more into once you already live into the house, see if everything's working fine. But I don't really see too many buyers, getting me to go in there and check it.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
solar panels are just a big one in general that I haven't thought about, or like some of the outlets for like the EV charging and stuff. Because I've never thought about this, and this is helpful because I have a brother-in-law who's a firefighter. And he says things that he just be joking, but then like he's so funny that like we like laugh it off, but he's like serious. So like we have a Tesla, and he's like, oh, we don't want no Tesla, burn your house down. And then we were like, you're so crazy, like whatever. And then he's like, no, like I'm telling you, like it's a different type of fire that like if an EV catches on fire in the home, and it's something with the plug and the battery, where like firefighters are not able to put out that fire, like they put out a different type of fire because it's some with the battery. It's like
maybe
it doesn't ball game.
It probably don't mix well with water or something.
It probably doesn't work. Yes, it's a whole thing. And I was like, oh, I never thought about that, but that's something that's very valuable to consider in a home, in a sense of like, oh, I'm gonna get an EV, we can charge at the house, but now you have a whole battery car that's in your home.
Yeah, I mean that, and the batteries to the house. I mean,
you're batteries to the house and the solar panel. Now we're talking major electrical things that are moving back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, there's even smart generators out there right now. With the blackouts, the brownouts, they just kick in, and you don't have to do anything, just kick in, and you have your house running, functioning normal. And that's a different aspect. I don't even know how to inspect that myself, because that's more of a depends on the manufacturer, the recommendation, stuff like that. Even the loads, you're not. I can't really inspect the loads and give you comfortable numbers or whatever, tell you if it's working properly.
Gotcha.
Even that, but yeah, smart homes, it's becoming a big thing right now, and it's I think with time we'll as
continue
inspectors
to adapt and evolve.
Even with Trek hasn't said anything about inspecting stuff with smart technology. It's smart, it gets extra stuff, but I'm pretty sure with time it'll become more of a standard,
more common.
More standard, more common.
Because TREC is the Texas Real Estate Commission and so forth. So whatever the real estate commission, they kind of guide us. So we, in Texas, at least, home inspectors are licensed real estate professionals, same as real estate agents. But like our contracts and stuff have continued to be updated specifically to cover things like solar panels, smart home technology. So now, like, it's in the contract that like you have to share these codes and passwords and like release access to these devices, because that's the whole thing. Like, we close on the home and like we love all the smart home features, but now we can't access the Ring doorbell. And I'm like, I don't know, like it's tied to the other owner's account. And they're like, I don't know, we closed. It's like, no, like this is a part of the contract. So now we're having to go, and like now I'll start doing it like 3 days before closing or the day of closing. We need to like, hey, like we're about to close, we're about to sign. Like, let's go ahead and get all of this at least documented, or have the listing agent have it written down with the keys, because it's just as important as the keys. So you don't necessarily, have a right to them until you close and fund. But I've been trying to chase down like information sometimes. I'm trying to be helpful.
Is that becoming normal now for you?
Yeah. Wow. So now like it's on my like regular like checklist of like things to do. We're about to close. If I know smart home technology, has it been released from the other owner? Who's the energy provider? How do you transfer it? If you got Vivint, are you gonna keep it? Are you gonna transfer the service? It's like all of these nuanced details that are not even, I mean, for us, it is the house, because like we call them accessories and improvements. So once you start attaching things to the property, like it's a part of the home.
Okay.
So you can kind of use that as leverage. Like, yeah, it comes with all of these smart home features. It's already connected and
but
integrated.
You can't use it.
Yeah, because it's tied to the other user's account and so forth. So
wow, yeah, that's a different aspect I've never seen. You know, me, when I look at it, it's not hooked up to anything, or if somebody is hooked up to something, and you know, I don't have privilege to do any of it. You know, to get into it or to check, make sure everything's fine. So I wonder how far. I mean, Trek will get involved in making sure that we get access to that or what.
Right, and that'll be very interesting because it's kind of like, again, homes continue to live and evolve just like we continue to live and evolve. So always really cool things there. So to wrap it up, I'll start wrapping it up. Just want to highlight some key pieces for folks to consider as we wrap up this episode of the Whiskey Wine Down. Thank you for joining me, Ruben. Can you share probably one of your most memorable or challenging experiences from one of your past home inspections?
Memorable or challenging? I guess my most memorable one would probably be my first one. You know, being out there. Thankfully, I was alone.
There's some things that happened, like in your home specifically, that were like, dang.
Well, my house specifically, yeah. There's, you know, more information on the electrical panel, what the newer updates are, smoke detectors, stuff like that. You know, now I could, you know, I know better. But back in the day, my first house, I didn't know what, you know, from, you know, left to right for the house, you know. Then you start noticing things that it's not working or whatnot. But yeah, like for me, I mean, there were some plugs that weren't working. So that got kind of annoying. Having a plug there that doesn't work.
All right, you can't. You trying to use it to charge your device or plug in the TV or something. Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's. I think my first home inspection was memorable only for the simple fact that it was my first. Luckily, I was alone. I didn't have a customer behind me. You know, watching me, whatnot. But yeah, it's one of my memorable ones. It was more in the countryside too, so it's nice and serene. Yeah, I even took a picture of it, you know, just because, you know, it was my first one.
Gotcha. That's cool.
But yeah, all of them I love. I mean, I love doing what I do. You know, helping people out as much as I can. I'm bilingual, so I get to. I think I'm the only bilingual around this area right now, so I get.
And that's been awesome.
I get this
like
Hispanic
having
community.
somebody that can be like comfortable and like truly explain things. So
and they're more comfortable talking to me and asking me what they need to ask. You know, instead of somebody trying to translate it or whatnot, and I could describe it a little bit better. But yeah, it's. I love doing what I do. You know, awesome. It's awesome. Every house is different. You know, every customer is different.
All right. Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ruben. Thank you all for tuning in to the Whiskey Wine Down. My name is Don McShan. We're going to be coming back to you all live each and every Wednesday with different guests and so forth. So shout out to Ruben for joining us for today's Whiskey Wine Down.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you. Shout out to Grover. Grover's here. He's having a good time.
Without the whiskey.
Right. I don't know. He probably enjoyed the whiskey. Thank you all so much. Be sure to subscribe and also follow me at DMAC_the Realtor.